tomorrow night and popping up to 48 on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. So joining me in the studio is Christopher Bledsoe, founder, I guess, of Improv Patrol. Is that a good way to say it?
Yes, that's correct.
So Christopher, are you a sports guy?
I'm a huge tennis fan.
Ah, there you go. Okay. So, but what I find interesting is I found this site that sort of gives the history of the Super Bowl, and going back to the first one when average price of a ticket was $12 as compared to, I don't know, about 2,000 this year or whatever the number is. I mean, it's just crazy, and I think the 30-second spots go in the millions of dollars now. They were $40,000 back then.
Wow.
So, Christopher Bledsoe, tell me a little bit about your background, and then I want you to tell me what Improv Patrol is.
Okay.
Or let's turn that around. Tell me about Improv Patrol, and then I want you to tell me how you got there.
Okay. Improv Patrol is an improvisational theater company. And what we do is the gift of the audience member's story is our script.
Okay.
And I really like that concept because in general, once you go to a show, it's all about the people on stage and you really don't get to see the people in the audience.
Right.
We're just the opposite. We put the spotlight on the people in the audience and we have their real life stories told to us and then we reenact them right on the spot.
Okay.
Now, how I got there, at age 15, I went and I saw an improvisational theater show. And I had told a scenario that happened in my life. And I was sitting in the audience and I'm watching these actors play it back. And in that moment, I learned a lot about myself. And I said to myself, I never knew I was that courageous until I saw it played back. And that really touched me, and it made me understand that we're so busy living our lives that we don't get a chance to stop sometimes and look at ourselves and what we're doing and what we're going through and the good things and the bad things.
Yeah, that's interesting because all of a sudden I'm listening to what you're saying and thinking to myself, you hold up that mirror and it's both the good and the bad and the somewhere in between, and maybe sometimes we want to gloss over the bad, but maybe we need to look at that as well.
Absolutely. And at age 15, once I saw that, it changed my life. Because
you mind if I ask how old you are now?
I'm 32.
Okay, so roughly half your life, just a little more than half your life ago.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I said, this is a life-changing moment for me because I learned something about myself
Yes.
I never would have.
Yes.
So at age 15, I said, I'm going to have my own theater company one day. And I'm going to do this because the world needs to see this.
Yes.
People need to be encouraged by their accomplishments. And they need to be imbued with power to understand that regardless of what we're going through in life, there's always some positive. And let's work on that positive and let's be honest with ourselves and fix the negatives. So thus, Improv Patrol was born. And I'm ecstatic to this day that we have sold out audiences. At one of our last two shows, we had standing ovations. And just recently, one of our audience members wrote back to us and he said, I was so touched by the reenactment of the playback that you did of his life. He had a very bad life, ended up in prison, and he was encouraged to change his life by the fact of the love of his life and his two children. And he said, I sat there and watched my life being played back before me. And,
wow.
And he said, I never knew how bad I was.
How interesting is that? It must be, I would say in that instance, must be almost like terrifying, though, to sit there and look at it. One of the things that, when you and I met here at the station yesterday, and I think I briefly mentioned to you that I had to step in October and take over teaching this entrepreneurs course.
Yes.
And when I listened to you briefly tell me yesterday about what you're doing, it reminded me of conversations from that entrepreneurs course. And almost without exception, with the 26 people or however many were in the course, the barriers that we put in front of ourselves, this invisible wall, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you come in and talk about this, because if we're talking about, there's a lot of I'm going to call it fear and unknown in society today, and for multiple reasons.
Absolutely.
Big concerns about the economy overall itself. Well, people have these ideas to go forward in business. Well, I'm not good enough. Somebody else is more talented than I am. If this was a good idea, somebody else already would have done it. What do you say to people who would tell you that as the script of their life?
Absolutely. And that's one of the main essentials that we teach, is helping people to understand that you as an individual and your uniqueness is actually one of your biggest attributes.
Yes.
We live in a world where people want to be everybody else, but uniqueness is what we need in society. So what we really encourage each individual to do is understand that it's important to be the best you. Because nobody can be the best you.
Yes.
Now, how we do that is we teach people to think positive about themselves. We teach them to understand that anything is possible. And we don't have that characterization of somebody else is better than me, somebody else can do this even better. It's I can do this. I have to bring me. I have to build that confidence. And we teach them how to have their own voice, and to help them appreciate that that voice is unique.
Let me jump in, Christopher Bledsoe. It's 8:15 on Hudson Valley Focus Live. Understanding that, and this is where one of the things that we talk about on here a lot is about this Common Core education. Well, that's trying to fit every person into a mold. We're going, and I contend, and history will, only history will let me know if I'm right in this. I contend we're coming into the period of the most dynamic economy globally that's ever been seen before in history. If we're going to participate in that, you and I are sitting here today at 20 Tucker Drive in the studio. We don't know what innovation is going to be out there that we're going to look at 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the kinds of things that you're talking about, this creative thinking, out of the box thinking, that's what people talk about in terms of we need in the economy. And also, one of the things going out in business is this ability to be able to stand up and present your ideas, to be part of a team. What do you say to that?
Absolutely. And that's the whole course of teaching a person to have their own voice. One of the things that we teach is whatever you make in a decision in acting, you have to believe in it 100% and go with it, and not be concerned about the judgments of people.
Right.
And you see the confidence level of individuals just explode.
Right.
Because now they can stand up and say in a business meeting or presentation, this is what I believe in. This is the way I think we can go.
And that's the point. I'm glad you said that, because you brought me back to part of my thought that I had, is the fact that the kinds of things that we're talking about, these skill sets, we're not necessarily talking about somebody going into a career in theater and acting. We're talking about that idea. And now next week, as I said to you before we turn the mics on, I do a lot of work over at SUNY New Paltz. Next week, we're going to start the spring debate series. I'll go over there one day next week and meet with, 30 or 40 students and talk about debate preparation. Well, I can tell from past debates when people get up in front of that group and present their ideas with confidence. And I remember the first time this really stood out to me. There was a young woman who made eye contact with the people she was talking to and spoke confidently. We got all done with the debates. Her team won. And I said to the young woman, "Did you ever do theater?" And she said, "Yes." So that kind of idea. Christopher Bledsoe, Improv Theater in Highland. Let's get a quick break in and come on back. I want to talk more about the importance of people learning to present themselves, break through that invisible wall and barrier that we talk about. Tom Sipis on Hudson Valley Focus Live at 8:18 on News Talk 1450 WKIP.